Welcome to the Talk About Topeka Studios. We've got Doug Dunton and Brian Short here with us talking about ham radios. Now, there's a license required to do this. First of all, we learned a lot about that on one of our last episodes. You can watch that on talkabouttopeka.com. But we're going to tell you how to get a license today. There's a license required for this?
The introductory license is called the technician class, and it's a very simple license to get. There is a test that you have to take, but it's multiple choice, 35 questions. We have classes on it both in Kansas City and Topeka. We take 2 weekends to go through all the material, actually several times, so that everybody's real familiar, but it's really easy. We've got several people gone through it. Brian's got, you said 1,300 people that have gone through it.
Now, so. who are the people going, what kind of people are doing this?
Yeah, and it's not all technical people. So, although there's a lot of technical knowledge there, we can take anybody. We call it from zero to hero in 2 Saturdays, because literally we've taken people as old as 87 and as young as 7 and brought them through the class. Some engineers found it very easy. You didn't really need to study much, just needed a little bit of information about the regulations. Others who, one of our instructors actually was a trauma nurse and had no technical background at all, and so she had to come up to speed on everything all at once. But 2 Saturdays generally gives us enough time. We have things divided out so it's in bite-sized pieces, and anybody can literally do it.
So in a few minutes here, kind of summarize what would happen in that 2-day process.
Right, so on the first Saturday, we kind of focus on the harder topics. So there is a little bit of math involved. There's a tiny bit of physics to understand how radio waves travel around the world through the atmosphere and how they work, just so that when you actually get your license, you can have a little bit of understanding so that you can make your radio work more effectively. So that's why that's on the test.
And you're teaching that stuff that it's practical as opposed to the stuff I learned that you just like, when am I ever going to use this stuff? So you guys are using this stuff. So that's
we are
good.
using those physics equations that you had to learn in
high school. And if I didn't do well in high school, you guys will show me how to do that.
We'll hold your hand and take you all the way
I shouldn't
through.
be scared of that.
No, not at all.
All right. So we learned the math. Now what else do we do?
And that's a license. So you learn the math, and then you learn the regulations, and then you learn the operation procedures. How do I actually, if I want to talk to the International Space Station, how do I do that? If I want to track myself, what do I need to do that? So you learn the basics there.
Now, what are the graduates doing with this stuff that we're getting a license for here? Right? How are they using that in their lives?
That's really a license to learn is what we call it, because we can't teach you everything in the world about ham radio. There are so many aspects. It blends so well with so many different hobbies. We can't possibly teach that in 2 Saturdays. So we give you a license to learn. And that's when you can take that knowledge and expand upon it and continue to, in your ham career, to move up the ladder. And Doug's group does some classes for that. You might talk about that.
Yep.
The intro class really gives a person just the information in order to be able to talk more or less just around town and so forth on handy-talkies like these, or you can buy mobile radios to put in your car and so forth. The next level class then gives you privileges that let you get the bigger radios that let you talk around the world. Cool. and be able to talk to just about anybody. There's a third level class that then gives you expanded range as far as frequencies that are available to you. And with that added range, usually they're a little bit quieter type frequencies, so it's a lot easier to be able to talk to somebody that might be around the world and find out more about them and so forth. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. And all those frequencies can be used in emergency communications and other areas that we get into all the time.
So emergency communications, a lot of people look at ham radio as a hobby, but in an emergency, you guys can be pretty crucial, right?
In fact, that was one of the big lessons learned. I went down to Joplin after the tornado down there. And of course, for years, I have worked in these public service events where we help bike clubs or walkathons or all these things, help them with their logistics. And what was really fascinating to me was that Joplin felt just like a bike ride from a logistics perspective. We were asking the same types of questions. Where is this food? Where is that person? We need this over here. Can you move it? Can you find out what this is? It was all the same questions you ask on a bike ride. So that we practice like real life. So we play every day as a hobby, prepares us for those emergencies, and it just almost automatically transitions.
And so when people say, I have a cell phone and it's technology, we're in the digital age, what's this stuff for? what if a tornado comes through and tears all that apart? You know, how do you communicate?
It's all gone, and it
Yeah.
doesn't take a
Gone,
tornado.
right.
There are communications emergencies that happen every day. For instance, when the 800,000 people gathered around Union Station, Kansas City, no one could make any kind of phone call or text. You've got a communications emergency. If you need an ambulance, what do? Well, there were a few ham radio operators in the crowd that had their radio, and they could still get the message through.
It's so amazing that this technology. Another thing, when you're using your own technology like this, a lot of people don't have any clue if it breaks down or whatever, how to fix it. So this really kind of gives you an idea of the workings of it, how you might be able to put it back together. I used to take things apart when I was a kid all the time, try and put them back together. Sometimes they worked. Most of the time they didn't. But I tried and I was able to. I couldn't take this apart and fix it or understand the components at all. But you guys kind of have that going on here where you could.
There's a lot of kit building, so the makers of the world will find ham radio a great place to experiment. Again, Raspberry Pi is one of those new spaces that we are not Luddites. We like technology, so we love to integrate things. So we actually have apps for ham radio that work on your cell phone. So it's not that we're saying don't use your cell phone. We're saying expand your horizons to additional technology. That's right.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys have classes coming up. Just real quick about those. We've got one coming up in Kansas City. You tell us about the Kansas City one.
Kansas City is the 20th and the 27th, and that'll be up by KCI at the National Weather Service Training Center, which is nice because you get to take a tour of that amazing facility as well. And again, it's 2 days, and anyone can do it.
And then the 2-day class in Topeka?
In Topeka, we're on February 13th and February 20th. We're at the Topeka Public Library, central part of town, easy to get to, and really nice facilities. There's places to go anywhere around there for lunches and things like that. So we have 2 full days of class.
All right, so I'll definitely encourage people to sign up for this. It's very portable to check it out. Get on their websites. There are 2 websites for them. You've got hamclass.org, that's for the Kansas City folks, and you've got kvarc.org for Topeka. Thank you so much, Brian and Doug, for joining us, and you can find this whole interview on talkabouttopeka.com.